Hey, this is Bert, and welcome back. This video is the third part, maybe not even the final part, but the final part for now, about all the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi that either have names or have some sort of significance.
No skill customs.
Today, we're focusing on the Ewoks that don't have action figures at all. Despite that, I'm actually going to start by talking about some Ewoks that do have action figures. Last episode, I talked about it. An Ewok named Noapek, and I didn't know where he got that name from or where the character is seen in the movie. Well, it turns out one of my viewers told me the story, and basically there was a young boy who was undergoing surgery. He happened to live near the Hasbro manufacturing plant. They let him tour the place and named an Ewok after him. They had to, confer with Lucasfilm, make sure that was okay. And so they asked him to pick out two Ewoks that would be in the next two-pack they made. And he chose Poplu, and then he also chose this other Ewok. He was named Noapek because his name is Noah. But when they made the figure, what they didn't realize from this incomplete black and white photo they had is that this is actually a striped Ewok with a green hood. And so he's not particularly accurate to what the character is in the movie. And they've actually since made a more accurate version of the character and named him Stemsy, even though the Star Wars Insider magazine has already named this Ewok Greeman. So now the same Ewok kind of has three names. He's Greeman, he's Stemsy, and he's Noapek. And then we talked about Whittle and Wonka last week, and how outside the ATST they're one pair of Ewoks, and inside the ATST they're actually totally different Ewoks. Well, one of the ones outside the ATST happens to be Flitchy, the guy who holds up the gun. That was pointed out to me, so I thought that was a fun fact I wanted to share with you. All right, so let's move on to the other ones that don't have action figures, but kind of sort of do have action figures. So first is Tokat. Here's why he sort of has an action figure, because he looks a lot like the Wonka that Hasbro made in their Scout 2-pack. So Tokat, I'd say just buy a couple Wonkas. Now you have Tokat and Wonka. Tokat is the Ewok who takes the gun from Han Solo, whereas Wonka, he's the guy that was in the ATST with Chewbacca. The difference is Wonka has like the little feathers, but maybe Tokat does. Maybe they're the same Ewok. It's kind of hard to distinguish these guys after a while. Okay, the next one I want to talk about is Wuta. Wuta is a lot like Lumat. It's because Kenner made the original Lumat figure. He sculpted him. He looks just like Lumat. He's one of the best, or Lumat. But then what they did was they actually used the coloration of Wuta's hood. So in a way, Wuta's already been done too. Last week I showed you the no-skill custom of Nikki, the Ewok that's dancing, doing cartwheels at the end. Also the same Ewok that couldn't quite see C-3PO telling the story. He's like kind of hopping up to see. He could be made with the Princess Nisa figure and the Tippet hood. Moving on. There's one more figure. There's this guy. I suggested the Keelkeech comic pack figure for him, and I've heard some other people actually officially call this character Keelkeech. So maybe that is Keelkeech after all. I'd like to see an official one where he's not so like intensely vibrant comic booky colors, but because this Ewok, when you watch the movie, this Ewok shows up all the time. He's like in tons of shots, especially when the Ewoks first capture the heroes, but he's throughout the movie. One thing I noticed in the most recent viewing is that you can see him a couple times holding a portion of a log as a shield. So that reminds me of Thorin from The Hobbit. So I'm going to call him Thorn, in case Keelkeech is already someone completely different. Then we have Zeffy. She's apparently the mother Ewok. You can see her a couple times holding a baby. I think maybe this is her also not holding a baby. And she's mostly visible in the village scenes. She does not really show up in the battle scenes. Moving on, one of my favorites is Brett Hupp. And Brett Hupp, he can be seen best playing the drums at the end of the movie. Not the drums, actually. He's playing those Imperial helmets like they were drums. I made one. This is like one of my first custom figures. I used Das Pronto to make it, which I don't use anymore because it cracks too easily. If I was going to remake this, I would use green stuff because it hardens to a very plasticky form. But anyways, I had a lot of fun making this years ago and kind of painting it like this. I would love to see a figure of Brett Hupp. Next up, Fufunik. This one's kind of like a little bit of a mystery. There's definitely an Ewok clearly seen that's wearing Fufunik's hood, but he's not brown like Fufunik is in this picture. And this comes back to the fact that this picture was taken on a soundstage, and different actors played some of the Ewoks when they were in the California Redwoods and then in the soundstage in London. So somewhere in there, maybe the hoods got swapped, or maybe there's two identical hoods, but it's pretty much Fufunik's hood. And I have seen other sites label this particular character as Fufunik. Next, we have Kungata. And I was trying my hardest. Some of these Ewoks are so hard to identify. Kungata, I think, is the one that's seen bowing for C-3PO, like really big on screen, okay, right behind Han. That's where I noticed him. Then there's this other guy, Wispeth. I think Wispeth is seen as the Ewok that's pointing his stick at Han. When Han gets mad at C-3PO, this guy gets really angry. And then there's this guy, Junkie. Okay, he was another hard one to spot, but I believe he's the guy. He can be seen right before C-3PO floats, and then again after Han and everybody's freed. Han and Leia hug real quick, and I think you can see him again there. Talk about a couple of Ewoks that are seen a lot and really should have figures made. One is Raven. Raven's got a lot of cool moments in this movie. When the Ewoks capture our heroes, there's just two Ewoks visible. There's one that's really visible, and then another one to the right of him that's not quite as visible. But the one that's really visible, that's Raven. And he shows up in a few close-up shots, and he's a really unique Ewok. He's the one that lassos the speeder bike and sends it slamming into the tree. From the back, he just looks like, Stemsy or Logray with the kind of beige and white stripes. But from the front, his fur is all kind of patched up really interestingly. So I love that guy. I think he's really great. And then there's this other one, Kazak. There's two Ewoks that are very similar, and it's hard to kind of distinguish them. Kazak obviously is one of them. And one of those Ewoks, I don't know if it's Kazak or the other one that doesn't have a name, one of them has been recast to be Kank in the Ewok Battle for Endor movie. Or Caravan of Courage movie, sorry. Caravan of Courage. Another Ewok that shows up all the time. And, well, I mean, like I said, it's hard to distinguish between the two of them, but one or the other is in a lot of shots. But they're in the same shots together, so you know that they're two different Ewoks. One's a little lighter, has a little lighter fur. One's got a little darker fur. Okay, then coming back to that Star Wars Insider picture, that real famous one where I'm getting a lot of these names from, there's three more I haven't talked about yet. There's Barneson, and I got to tell you, I'm not 100% sure that this is him, because I know you want to know where he shows up in the movie, right? At least I did. So I tried really hard using that Star Wars Insider picture to figure out where each character is. And Barneson, I believe, maybe is this dude operating the catapult, and maybe he's also the guy that was running with Chewbacca to the AT-ST, even though he didn't end up being the Ewok inside the AT-ST. Then in the back we have Terrace, kind of a taller Ewok actually. There's a much better image of him right here, and he can be seen a couple times as we enter the village. Finally, we have Lakotup. Okay, we talked about him actually a little bit in that they kind of confused him and Warwick, but when you swap them out, okay, Warwick's Warwick, and the one they labeled as Warwick is really Lakotup. There's just so little visible of him that it's really hard to figure out where this guy shows up in the movie. So I gotta admit, I wasn't going to just, point to an Ewok and tell you that it's Lakotup. I don't really know exactly where he shows up. And that covers all the Ewoks that don't have figures but do have names. Now I want to talk about a couple that don't have names or figures. Okay, and first of all is this guy in the green. This guy is seen. Or maybe it could be a number of different Ewoks, but they kind of have like these black and white stripes and a greenish hood. He's seen all over the place. Just about when it comes to battle time, like they're really battling, he is seen in practically every shot. So I don't know if maybe this was like a stunt performer in this guy and they decided to use him a lot. But he's seen diving out of the way of the AT-ST shots. He's seen chopping the rope to send the log at the AT-ST. He's really visible throughout the movie, really deserves a figure. Okay, then there's these guys with some really distinguishing markings on them. I think they could use figures. I just think they're kind of cool looking characters. They're seen mostly in the Ewok village shots. I didn't really notice them so much in the battle shots. Another one that kind of avoids the battle is this guy seen here. He's smoking. Maybe that's why they'll never make him, because they don't want to have a character that's smoking. But who knows? I think he looks pretty cool. He could have a figure in my mind. And then there is this Ewok, which I love, and I never noticed him. I think I always thought he was Leektar. He looks a lot like Leektar. Same sort of thing, kind of like an older, taller Ewok with a skull on his head, but it's a totally different skull. So this guy I would love to see a figure of too. No, I could not find a name for that character. And that wraps it up. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. I got a lot more. If you like Endor, I'm focusing on Endor for a little while here as I rebuild my Endor scene. I kind of destroyed it as I was making this video, these Ewok videos, and to be honest, when I made my Blurg video last year, I destroyed it a little bit then to make it so I could put puppets in there, fit puppets in there. So I'm going to put it back together, but as I put it back together, I'm going to customize it little by little. So I'll see you then, and may the 4th be with you.